Hey everyone, this is Andy, better known as Love Retro BTW on Twitter X, Threads, IG, and Cafe BTW on TikTok and YouTube. A quick update that the Cafe BTW podcast is taking a very long hiatus, but I still have something really amazing to share with you. We have a fantastic retro gaming community on Twitter X where we've crossed well over 2,000 passionate members. And if you're a lover of retro gaming, this is the perfect place to share your content, showcase your pickups, or just chat about your favorite old school games. To dive into nostalgia and become a part of the thriving community, click in the show notes on the Cafe BTW link tree or go right to my Twitter X profile on Love Retro BTW. And now, without further ado, gear up for another sensational episode of the Gamers Week podcast.
Coming up on Gamers Week podcast. Well, but with Twitter, there's a point in which all that's going to be left is people who just are there to suck on the power teat of Elon Musk. And then what else is there? It basically becomes like shitty Reddit at that point.
Yeah, it's going to turn into a hate machine.
Yeah, that's it.
Suck on the power tweet was not a phrase that I had on my bingo card of the week.
Glad I could add that to your lexicon. All right, we ready for this?
Y'all ready for this?
I think that's at least the third or fourth time you guys have made that joke.
Yes, it never gets old.
Never, not once.
I never said it was getting old. I just was letting you know. You dipped into that bucket a few times.
Say it with enthusiasm.
Right. I felt a lack of the silly coming out of you.
Well, we don't want to be predictable. That's all.
I don't have a problem being predictable. I'm old.
I'm old. It's my ginger snaps at 6:30, my glass of warm milk at 7:45, and then I'm out.
7:45? That's pretty late for an old timer.
He's a night owl.
Yeah, it's a night owl.
Geriatric night owl.
Yo, I heard Bill stays up till 7:45.
Screw that.
How you doing, man?
You're burning the candle at both ends.
Welcome to the Welcome to I heard both ends.
Welcome to the Gamers Week podcast.
Welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, the worst, and the weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 93. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. My name is Ryan, aka Retro Game Brews, and I'm going to be your host for this evening, but I have two fantastic people joining me here tonight. First up is the master of deception. She distributes fake numbers with a mischievous grin, leaving bewildered suitors lost in a digital labyrinth of disappointment. Please welcome Blue Williams. Blue, how you doing?
That was super poetic for just giving out fake numbers.
Thought we would make it sound more regal than I just give out fake numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
And next up is a man who rises above all the other sinners, ascending from the pits of despair to be chosen as the purest amongst the heathens, the most innocent of the unscrupulous, the most virtuous of the immoral. Please welcome our resident patron saint of Gamers Week, Mr. Donald G.
I just want to be pure. And I just also like to say the digital labyrinth of disappointment. I would like for that to be like the title of my memoir.
The digital labyrinth of disappointment, or how I became the prudiest guy in hell.
I'm not stepping on those coals. Those coals don't look sanitary. There's no way.
Is that paraffin wax or beeswax? I don't know.
I'm a vegan, so.
I'm a vegan.
All right, so before we jump into our reviews, reactions, and requests for the week, just a quick reminder to you all, we are going to be at PRGE next weekend, and therefore, the unfortunate part is we will not be having an episode next week. So if you are expecting it and you log in and you listen to this again, then you'll know why. But we will pick up the week after PRGE, which is sure to have a bunch of stories and fun stuff to talk about.
Lots of stories.
Yes, make your bets now about who's going to get arrested.
Well, not Donnie, because he's the purest of the pure.
Which is funny because my money was on Donnie, and now I don't know what to think.
Now I sit atop my cloud of judgment and peer down upon you sinners.
Ryan, I need you to start drinking again.
I'm on it.
I knew I could count on you.
Off the wagon just for PRG. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our reviews, reactions, and requests for the week, starting with Dustin Arand. Great episode. Allow me to throw my hat in the ring for 99 games. My big one is Gnat Attack from Mario Paint. When you kill bugs, they go to other players, also Sonic, Rampage, Ghosts and Goblins, and yes, Smash TV. Any shmup.
Actually, I think I would totally play Mario Paint 99. I feel like that could get nuts really quickly with all the bugs.
Yeah.
Next up is Terry Baca on Discord. He says, I almost crapped my pants listening to the Oops, I Voted Other. Great job, RGB. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Were you wearing anything when you almost crapped your pants?
We don't ask and we don't kink shame. That's Terry Baca's business.
And last up from Matt Brown via email. I love your show and really enjoy y'all's opinions on both current and past events. That being said, what would you consider your best year in gaming? I don't necessarily mean best year for new releases, although it could be, but I mean the games you chose to play in a January to December timeframe.
I have to go with 2017, and I know Matt said not necessarily new releases, but the new releases in 2017 were legit. It's Super Mario Odyssey, Resident Evil 7, Breath of the Wild, Assassin's Creed Origins, Cuphead, Little Nightmares, Mario Kart 8. I mean, come on, and also Hollow Knight. So that was a killer year if ever there was one in gaming.
I'm going to go with 1997 on this one. Castlevania Symphony of Night, Crash Bandicoot 2, Tomb Raider 2, Final Fantasy 7, Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey, and Mortal Kombat 4. Those were all big hits that year.
You bastard.
Well, because I picked the same one as you.
I was going to go with that one. It was. I have a backup, though.
Okay. Sorry for stealing your thunder.
No, you're not.
I'm not.
Mine would be 1998. You know, how could you compete with Metal Gear Solid, Ocarina of Time, Resident Evil 2, the original Mario Party?
All bangers.
All 100%. That's my go-to year.
So me and Donnie are stuck in the 90s. Blue is much more relevant. Cool.
I told you, I'm going to drag you two into the 21st century one day, kicking and screaming.
And now, it's time for the... Doc! Come in, Doc! Marty, where are you? I'm on Twitter, and I'm looking at this week's very important poll. I have to tell you what's on the poll! Marty! If you tell me what's on the poll before it comes out, it could have disastrous consequences on this week's episode. That doesn't make any sense, Doc. They used the very important poll for interaction from their listeners. Some guy even said that his favorite beat-em-up was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Well, he wouldn't be wrong in this case, Marty. You do a lot of beating people up in that game. I'm surprised Howard Lincoln didn't cancel it for how violent it was for younger gamers. Did you know he once told a congressional hearing that Night Trap was filth and it would never appear on a Nintendo console? Do you know how many copies of Night Trap for the Nintendo Switch I own? Doc, this week's poll has got a fourth option. It's gonna be great. Great Scott! The Gamers Week podcast has never included a fourth option in their poll. Marty, I need to ask you a very important question. When you last used a time machine, where did you go? I went back to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo in Portland, Oregon, 2023. I wanted to pick up every copy of Barbie for the NES before it shot up to $15,000 per cartridge. When you were there, did you speak to anyone from the Gamers Week podcast? I, may have participated in the Blockbuster World Video Game Championships while I was there. Great Scott! Marty, they were hosting the Blockbuster World Video Game Championships that year. Oh, this is heavy, Doc. Marty, we must go back to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo in 2023, and you must not compete in that championship. Can I at least keep these copies of Barbie? Are you ever going to play them? No, Doc. I'm going to sell them when I get back. Marty! I'm going to kill that kid.
Oh my God! You can't see it, but I am bowing down now.
Oh my God,
that is
hilarious.
hands down the greatest VIP intro of all the greatest
stop
VIP
it.
intros that have ever happened. No, I'm serious.
So good.
So a little story on this. I realized yesterday, I was like, I've got to do the VIP this week. And initially I went towards one thing. I started working on it, worked for about 2 hours and just completely scrapped it because I couldn't get it right. And then I got an epiphany. I was like, oh, great. I'll do Back to the Future.
It was amazing.
Dude, you freaking nailed it. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you freaking did. I can't believe I have to go next and follow this.
Every Monday on Twitter, we post our VIP, our very important poll. If you would like to participate, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. So this question for this week was, it's officially spoopy season. What's your favorite 16-bit horror game? Coming in at number 3 was ZAMN, otherwise known as Zombies Ate My Neighbors at 8.6%. You can either choose the Sega Genesis or the Super Nintendo version. Coming in at number 2 is Splatterhouse 2 with 20.6%. And taking the top spot this week, Castlevania Bloodlines at 55.3%. Now, 15.5% of you said other, so let's take a look at some of the comments from the poll. At Stephen Malofsky says, Clock Tower for the Super Famicom. It's a genuinely scary point and click with innovative elements for the time, like 8 different endings you can get. It has a spooky setting, effective jump scares, mystery that needs solving, and a mad killer with a giant pair of scissors after you. At Retro Gaming Dev says, let's go with Hauntings on the Sega Genesis. It was so fun going into the home and picking how to scare the heck out of the residents. Such cool animations too. At Block Sega says, from this list, definitely Splatterhouse 2. Who doesn't love a blatant Jason ripoff? Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Haunting, Decap Attack, Stormlord, and Ghouls and Ghosts are also some faves of mine. At F10 Podcast says, I don't know if RoboCop vs. Terminator for the Super Nintendo counts, but I have a specific recollection of playing it at a friend's house and yelling every time you'd blast a Terminator off a ladder and it would come right back at you. And Frankus Baldwin says, I'm going to cheat and say Corpse Party. It has great music, 16-bit graphics, and is overall a really entertaining ghost story.
It is cheating, but I will 100% allow it because I love that game and it is super disturbing.
What system did it come out on?
It would be on the 3DS.
Oh, okay. So it's, well, is that
16-bit graphics. That's all we said.
okay? Damn it! All right. See, I get kind of siloed when I hear some of that stuff. So I'm like, 16-bit. Okay, let me go back and take a look at Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm like, there's not really that many good horror
You got to
games.
think outside the box, man.
I know. You tell me one thing, and my brain can't deviate. So my answer's going to suck this
Really?
week. Yeah.
Because I think you're quite a deviant.
I don't, according to recent.
Okay,
you thought wrong. So based on this week's question, Blue, what's your choice?
I'm going to throw my money behind Splatterhouse 2. I really love the entire Splatterhouse series. Yes, it's a blatant Jason ripoff, but come on, they're so over the top and crazy horror and gore everywhere. If I had a Halloween wish, it would be for a Splatterhouse port.
Or a limited run games release?
Yes, but
I don't want to pay people for something.
yeah, I don't want to have
Exactly.
to pay an arm and a leg for it. And I'd like to get it within the year. So.
A reasonable time frame before I die?
Right.
Ryan, what about you? What's your choice this week?
So normally I would go with Zombies Ate My Neighbors because I do really, really love that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually going to go, I liked Splatterhouse 3 better than I like Splatterhouse 2. Splatterhouse 2 is super fun. I just find that 3 is a little bit more realistic graphics. And to me, it's actually a little bit more foreboding because there is a time limit on there. Constantly the game is reminding you that that like your wife or your kid is stuck in the crypt and they're going to die soon. So you have to kind of play the game a little bit more strategic, and it makes it super, super difficult because especially if you're not getting the hits that you want, sometimes it's tough. But that's the challenge, right? You want to be scared, you want to be having the adrenaline pumping for you, and I think Splatterhouse 3 does that really, really well.
You know, I think there's a difference between foreboding and having like a complete anxiety panic attack because of the timer. Those are completely different things.
Potato.
What about you, Donnie?
Like I said earlier, my choice is probably going to suck, only because I wasn't thinking out of the box here. Splatterhouse, the series, great game. Like you said, it's a blatant Jason ripoff. Whenever I first saw it, I was just like, really? They're making a game about Jason Voorhees, but he's not Jason Voorhees. It's some dude who just takes on a mask. I'm like, this is crap. But the game was fun. But when I was siloed into thinking about 16-bit games, I kind of immediately went to Clock Tower. And Clock Tower was scary. Things coming at you with a big-ass pair of scissors. Right. Like a huge pair of shears that could cut your head off. And this immediately made me think of Exorcist 3. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
So Exorcist 3, there's a scene in a hospital where they're like there's a lady at the front desk and she's making her rounds, and she goes into this room, comes out, and next thing you know, this figure in white robes is right behind her with these big ass pair of scissors. And just, you know what's happening. She's like,
oh, she dead.
Yeah.
She real dead. And
then Clock Tower comes out, and I see this little guy with the big ass shears, and I'm just like, oh God. I'm just shaking up. And that's one of the only few 16-bit era horror games that has ever scared the crap out of me.
It's tough to do in 16-bit.
Yeah, I know, right? With the chiptune music. I'm like, whoa!
I'm just waiting to see if somebody at PRGE will be cosplaying something with a pair of like giant fake scissors.
Please don't.
I will pay you $5 to chase my friend around.
Make it 20, you got a deal.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and shout out our patrons this week?
We couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. And yes, we have a new patron to announce. A big thank you and welcome to the Mad Milkman. They'll be joining Johnny Boombots, Seven Castle Forest, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, Love Retro BTW, Steven Sand, Ramboski, Terry Kinnear, Doongie Forever, Ludo Timbo, Ducks in Disguise, Don't Make Me Pull Over This Car, Games with Coffee, Hybrid Divide, Matto1606, You Fall Before Me, Davey PGH, The Red Ox, PDX family, including Shannon and Luke, Scala Zeal, Zach Huge Thanks, Number One Blue Sick Boys Fan, Sassy Sony, Evo Lust, Rai Rai's Secret Best Friend, Mega Retrovan, Gamatroid, Michael LeKite, Emo-esque, Bill Tucker, The Real Retro Game Brews, Fruitcake's Pickled Pepper, Ducks with Thick Thighs, Wizard of Zardoz, Bobson Dugnut, Retro Blast Pat, Great Siaman 81, and BNT Zilla Guy. If you like what you hear today, and we really hope you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing, like prizes and giveaways. You'll also gain access to our weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more. How is your pickled pepper there, Ryebread?
I picked a pack of... No,
leave that in.
Oh, I'm going to. Trust me.
Are we witnessing the end of an era?
We are.
Oh, man.
Yes, the mystery patron has finally signed off with the very long extended April Fool's joke that they've been playing on us. And we do say thank you very much.
You will be missed. If we can play some taps over this as well, like.
This is actually what was keeping me coming back every week.
Just the patron shout outs. Man, the show sucks, but their patron shout outs are funny. All right, so why don't we jump into our headlines for the week? Our headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic, family-friendly retro gaming podcast, and in each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Right now, they're talking about the Gargoyles remaster, how Space Invaders has an origin story, and how Steam is now retro. Visit them at retrogameclub.net or follow the link in the show notes. Steam is retro. Oh, God.
Right?
What does that mean even?
When did Steam come out?
I'm looking it
I
up.
think it's got to be 25 years old to be. It's classic, though.
Oh gosh, the Steam initial release date was September 12th, 2003.
Ooh.
20 years old.
Ouch.
Wow.
It's like that Indiana Jones gif.
He chose Polly.
Yeah. Don't look at it, Marion.
What is happening to me?
From PC Gamer, Elon Musk streams Diablo 4 as part of his latest doomed quest to turn Twitter into a Twitch killer. The latest step in Elon Musk's scheme to convert X, the worsening service you and I still call Twitter, into the Everything app, turn it into Twitch. The flighty billionaire wants the site to operate as a live streaming service, as well as a bank, a global town square, and presumably a micro-blogging platform. And in the last couple of days has even helmed a few game streams himself to test X's capacity to handle them. The first Diablo 4 game stream occurred last Sunday on an account named CyberGamer420 in Leet speak, and consisted of Musk running a Tier 69, nightmare dungeon on his level 100 werewolf druid. Well, partially anyhow. It also consisted of about 13 minutes of someone helping Musk resolve technical difficulties with the stream, and a truly excruciating 20 or so minutes of the richest man in the world explaining the intricacies of his build. Teething difficulties at the beginning aside, X didn't seem to have many issues handling Musk's first live stream. For whatever reason, perhaps the fact that Musk's main account has about 1,810,403% more followers than the CyberGamer420 account. The second stream experienced issues throughout, constantly flickering and pitching Musk's voice up by 4 kilohertz, making him sound a lot more high-pitched than usual. A problem which the man himself reckons will be easy to fix. This is what I'm going to do with my... Not only has X Twitter's reputation been damaged by Musk's bizarre behavior, which has recently landed him in legal hot water for linking a 22-year-old Jewish man to a neo-Nazi group, but the platform just doesn't seem well suited to the kind of live streaming that Twitch and YouTube can offer. Plus, you'd have to call it X streaming, which sounds like the kind of site you'd only visit in an incognito window. It's unlikely we'll be seeing X streaming standing atop the corpses of Twitch and YouTube anytime soon. What are the odds that he's going to turn into some big hippie and grow his hair out and start like just wearing beads and long robes and smelling like patchouli?
If that gets him off of handling Twitter, then I don't care. He can do whatever he wants, but he's ruined an app that I've enjoyed for, I don't know, the last almost 10 years.
Yeah.
So thanks for that, bud.
This is so weird. I mean, not in the sense that Musk often has no idea what he's doing. And then whatever crazy idea pops in his mind, he's like, yeah, let's try that. Whatever. What's a business plan? Who cares? He has proven that he is consistently tone deaf to what the users of his site actually want. Either he doesn't care or he's just stupid. I keep going back and forth of which it is. But he is 100% going to bury this site, and trying to turn it into Twitch is not going to save it.
Well, and the interesting part for him is that he's trying to make this an all-inclusive app. Now, if he was back in 2010 when the Chinese came out with WeChat, which does absolutely everything that you want. It's basically your internet browser, it's your bank, it's your streaming service for videos, it's everything. It's all done in one app, more or less. Then, yeah, sure. Back in 2010, if he bought Twitter and turned it into a WeChat, maybe he would have an opportunity to do that, but it's been done already. And the North American, or really most of the world marketplace, isn't looking for one singular app to do all that. And the second piece to this is that he is so unconcerned with how his profile is with this application that he doesn't recognize that he's actually pushing people away from this. If he were to take on a much more, inviting persona and try to convince people to kind of come back, then maybe. But the thing is, it's like the rats on the sinking ship, right? Everybody's running for the exits. So he's already done enough damage. He's not going to be able to recuperate some of those losses that he took by purchasing it for way more money than it's worth by doing stuff like this. Nobody wants to go onto Twitter for that reason. All you're running into now is that the people who are sticking around typically have a singular reason, right? They want to promote something, or they're like sycophants for Elon Musk. That's the two people that are staying on Twitter.
Yeah, you need the champion for the incels.
Mm-hmm. It's clearly his stupidity comprised with his egomaniacal attitude. That's like, he's a billionaire. Nobody's going to tell him how to run things. I have a successful company. What do you mean? I mean, I can run this company. That's no problem. Oh, you have a great idea? Nope. I'm going to run it my way. He is going to put the last nail in the coffin on Twitter, and it's eventually going to go away. I feel very confident in that. Or he's going to end up just like getting tired of it. He's had his fun, and he's going to sell it off to somebody else. And maybe they'll be able to revive Twitter to its glory days. But I don't have high hopes.
And the thing is, you would have to do so much work in order to revive it because it seems just so lost at this point.
It does. Right. But I mean, at the same time, recognize that there's not been a viable alternative sprung up yet. Right. I mean, there was Blue Sky, which has not really taken off. And there's whatever the hell, Facebook. Threads. Yep. Right. There was Threads. That's not really taking off. Nothing has had the same draw that Twitter has. And so if Twitter dies, the microblogging app platform may die with it, which I think would be a shame. But I think what it demonstrates above all is his lack of respect for what these platforms have accomplished. Twitch, while not perfect, has become the go-to place for all live streaming. Mm-hmm. It was a pioneer app, and it continues to be the best place to go and do that. And so if Elon thinks that he can just throw on a stream and achieve the same results, it's like when Google says, oh, we'll just start a game platform.
Right.
We'll just have Stadia. How hard could it possibly be? I mean, it doesn't work like that, bud.
But look at the amount of people that are patronizing his businesses. I think they overshadow the amount of people who say that they're not, and it's still keeping him in business.
Well, but with Twitter, there's a point in which all that's going to be left is people who just are there to suck on the power teat of Elon Musk. And then what else is there? It basically becomes like shitty Reddit at that point.
Yeah, it's going to turn into a hate machine.
Yeah, that's it.
Suck on the power tweet was not a phrase that I had on my bingo card of the week.
Glad I could add that to your lexicon.
All right, next up from Eurogamer, canceled loot shooter Hyenas, allegedly Sega's biggest budget game ever, new report claims. New alleged details on the development of Sega and Creative Assembly's canceled live service shooter Hyenas have been published, including claims that it was Sega's biggest budget game ever before the company pulled the plug. The Japanese publisher announced last week that it was canceling the multiplayer shooter and some unannounced titles under development in Europe following at least 6 years of development on the project. Developer Creative Assembly has suggested the game was canceled due to ambitious plans and high competition in the multiplayer shooter space. However, a new video published by Total War YouTuber Volland, corroborated by VGC sources, features claims from anonymous developers that a lack of direction, disruptive engine change, and overly cautious design contributed to its downfall. Claims from anonymous developers detail a total lack of direction around the game, with one contributor stating many members of the leadership team were asleep at the wheel, but they never seemed to lose their jobs. Another contributor said that internal feedback on the game was poor, adding it felt that hyenas would melt into the background of an already saturated multiplayer shooter market. Sources also confirmed that while Hyenas was originally planned as a premium game, by the time it was canceled, it had transitioned to a free-to-play model with microtransactions, though very limited post-release support had actually been designed. Hyenas is believed to have been one of the super games Sega often referred to in its financial results. Ambitious, big-budget titles it hoped would pay off with big sales in the future. Although it's not public knowledge how much Sega invested in Hyenas, former developers told VGC they believe it was the company's biggest budget ever for a game, beating 1999's Shenmue, which was once claimed to have cost around $70 million.
So even in the modern era, Sega is making bad business decisions.
Got to live up to a legacy, you know?
Yeah. I remember when this game was announced. I think we even talked about it on the show, but like looking at the announcement trailer and it's like, okay, you're space thieves going on space heists, but not because you have to, it's because you just miss things about Earth. So you're going on these death-defying heists so you can find a Rubik's Cube or, you know, whatever, a can of Coke. I don't even know. But apparently I'm not the only one who didn't understand what the point of it was.
It's like Bill had a family. He just died on this raid. But at least we got a Rubik's Cube, which I'm going to be frustrated about for the next month and a half.
And I also remember Sega, you know, many times in the financial reports from the last several years, kind of mysteriously hinting at these super games that were going to come along, but nobody really knew what that meant or what they were going to be. And if this was going to be the flagship super game.
Yikes.
Oh, no, don't.
I'm sorry, Donnie. You know it's a dysfunctional relationship, and yet you stay in it and you keep going back.
Because I love Sega, and Sega loves me.
Do they?
I know they'll really change. I know they will. A couple of episodes ago, we had something where we talked about a game just having a total lack of oversight on the development, and it was either canceled or changed completely.
It was that vampire game, the
Redfall?
Redfall.
Yeah. Who's getting paid the big bucks to not do anything?
I don't know. Where can I get one of those jobs?
Right.
No kidding. Going to work, you put your feet up, play your Switch at Sega, and be like, yeah, what's good? Whatever, I don't care.
I will say this, though. I'm not surprised that Sega isn't living up to the hype right now. They haven't really done much in the last few decades. So to think that they would turn it around, I didn't see it happening. So this does not surprise me in the least.
Yeah, the biggest thing that Sega has had going for it in the last several years has been the Sonic movie franchise. And I don't even know how heavily they were involved in that or not. They may have just licensed it out and said, yeah, sure, use our IP, whatever, if it gets us money.
Yeah, we'll take the cash. Thank you.
Yeah, and they're like, wait, it's successful. Sweet. We'll take credit for that.
Whatever you want to do, we trust you. Really?
And in this day and age, to become a massive developer and keep the name that Sega had back in the day, I mean, that's maybe what they're running on, is the fact that they have some notoriety. People know who they are. So they were just thinking, oh, well, this is going to be easy, right? Sega, all we have to do is just slap our name on it and people will buy this, like, don't they? But it just doesn't work that way. The game has to be playable. It has to be fun. And you have to have the right people to manage the projects. And it just sounds like they chose to mail it in.
And that's what happens when you chase trends, because that's exactly what Hyenas sounds like. It sounds like a trend chasing game.
This is not like Fortnite. It's not like Destiny. It's not like PUBG.
Totally not like Destiny, okay? What's Destiny? We don't even know. Here's our game where it's like got Destiny scratched out and then hyenas written next to it.
Next up from VGC, Capcom's greatest ever catchphrase has been decided by its players. Greatest ever catchphrase in Capcom's game has been revealed following a public vote. As part of its ongoing 40th anniversary celebrations, Capcom held a poll in its Capcom Town website, asking players to vote on their favorite line from its games. Although some of the publisher's most iconic lines, such as Shuriken, the Street Fighter.
Could you say it more with like emphasis and
Shuriken!
Thank you.
From Street Fighter weren't included in the poll. The 5 nominees were Objection from Ace Attorney, Itchy Tasty from Resident Evil, So Tasty from Monster Hunter, Let's Party from Sengoku Basara, and Tune Tune, the death sound effect from Mega Man.
That's a catchphrase?
They made it into an onomatopoeia, and that apparently is a catchphrase, yeah. The winner with an overwhelming 52% of the vote was Objection from the Ace Attorney game, originally made famous by the series' first protagonist, Phoenix Wright. To celebrate the poll results, Capcom has released 4 wallpapers featuring characters from the other 4 nominated games saying the Objection catchphrase. The Capcom Town website launched in June, celebrating the company's 40th anniversary. Billed by Capcom as the ultimate digital tourist destination, Capcom Town will be updated regularly with new features. The site includes a number of areas, including retro game section, a museum, a merch factory, where players can download Capcom-themed Twitter icons and pages dedicated to Capcom's CEO and COO. Giving history of the company, the museum section features over 500 pieces of artwork, design documents, and video and music selections from a number of Capcom series, including Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, Street Fighter, Mega Man, Devil May Cry, Ace Attorney, and Ghosts and Goblins.
I'll take things nobody asked for and none of us ever wanted for 500, Alex. What is this crap?
I don't know. When I first saw this headline and saw that, like, I looked at the wallpapers and the one I saw was Mega Man shouting objection. I was like, well, yeah, that kind of seems obvious as the most memorable Capcom catchphrase. I was like, what else would you even choose? What else would even be in the running? And then I read it and I was like, okay, Itchy Tasty from Resident Evil. Yeah, that one's awesome. That one would have gotten my vote. The others, okay. And then by the time you get to the death sound effect from Mega Man, I feel like you're really stretching it.
The death sound can be a catchphrase, but Shoryuken or Tatsumuk that can't be?
What?
You know, the Tatsumuk Pinkyuken, the spinning kick from Street Fighter. That can't be a catchphrase?
I thought you were having some kind of Irish seizure.
This is one of the worst polls ever.
I mean, it's fine. If you're Capcom and you want to celebrate your 40th anniversary, what would you do?
I'd go through the history. I think I would go through the history of some of our greatest IPs and do a matchup or a mashup of Mega Man in a Resident Evil setting, or Mega Man fighting Ryu or Ken and having them scratch their heads like, who the hell is this guy? And he's just like, he fires his buster weapon at them and they just explode. Something fun, maybe like that.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind that Capcom only cares about Resident Evil and Monster Hunter now.
She's not wrong.
So what's a way to pay homage to your old IPs, but without actually having to do anything? You can make a wallpaper.
I mean, Nintendo, when they have a 35th anniversary for Mario, they go, oh, let's make a 35th anniversary Mario game for people to play that's interactive and fun online. You got Mega Man. Mega Man could be one of those kinds of games. Come on. Resident Evil might be kind of cool too, right? Like a zombie shooter. I don't know. Something. Give us something more than a page about the CEO and COO.
Right.
This just seems like such a kiddish way to do this. Like if you asked a 9-year-old, like what would be cool to have for your 40th anniversary for Capcom, they'd be like, oh, well, you know what we could do? We could make wallpapers and things for your Twitter account, and it would be great.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I don't think a 9-year-old would say that. I think like a 70-year-old would say that.
Sure, whatever. It clearly not the target market, though. They didn't ask the right people here.
What was really cool about the internet 30 years ago? Wallpapers? Okay, yeah. Let's have those.
No, screensavers. Screensavers were cool 30 years ago.
Actually, I might get some Capcom screensavers.
Capcom After Dark.
And now it's time to take a look at our top 3 new releases for the week. Detective Pikachu returns. Switch. Unravel a series of mysteries across Rhyme City with a tough-talking, coffee-loving Pikachu and his human partner, Tim Goodman. When a jewel theft occurs, the case sets this great detective duo down a path filled with mystery. Why did Tim's father, Harry, go missing? What is causing the Pokemon-related incidents around Rhyme City? Answer these questions and more by searching for clues, investigating scenes, and using your case notebook to make deductions. Disgaea 7, Vows of the Virtueless. PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC. Disgaea is back and better than ever in Disgaea 7, Vows of the Virtueless. Embark on one hell of an SRPG adventure and utilize the devilishly exciting new features including jumpification, hell mode, and item reincarnation to take your fighting team to the next level. Then unlock new and improved auto battle by successfully completing each stage and see how your team stacks up in online ranked battles. With over 40 different character classes to choose from, you can customize your team to suit the ever-changing tides of battle. Assassin's Creed Mirage. PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, PC. Experience the story of Basim, a cunning street thief seeking answers and justice as he navigates the bustling streets of 9th century Baghdad. Through a mysterious ancient organization known as the Hidden Ones, he will become a deadly master assassin and change his fate in ways he never could have imagined. Experience a modern take on the iconic features and gameplay that have defined a franchise for 15 years. Explore an incredibly dense and vibrant city whose inhabitants react to your every move, and uncover the secrets of 4 unique districts as you venture through the golden age of Baghdad. And all I can think about is I'm walking through a crowded street and I fart. What are the people going to do?
I wonder if that's one of the special attacks.
So based on these choices for this week, Ryan, which one are you picking up?
So I've never played an Assassin's Creed game. I'm sorry, Blue. Sorry.
I'm used to you disappointing me. It's
of course.
fine.
Of course, yeah. Love Detective Pikachu the movie. Can't stand Detective Pikachu the games. They are boring. I'm going to say that. I know somebody out there is going to be like, oh, how dare you? Just not my cup of tea. But Disgaea games are fun. SRPGs are my jam. 40 different characters you can play online. Give me more Disgaea. I'm all for this one.
Give me more Disgaea. All your hugs and kisses too. Blue, what about you? What's your choice this week?
Well, I didn't play the first Detective Pikachu, and I'm not a Pokemon person anyway, so I'm probably going to skip that one. I have played some Disgaea, and it's fun to a point, but I think the thing about Disgaea is that they designed those games for like the epic SRPG nerds, and you can put easily tens of thousands of hours into those games and not do everything. And I ain't got that kind of time or focus. Normally, I would have been so excited about Assassin's Creed Mirage, but there's just something about the series lately that it's grown stale for me, I guess I'll say. And while the little that I've seen about Assassin's Creed Mirage, it does look good. It does have all those tempting things that says, no, come back, continue to be a fan of Assassin's Creed. I just don't know. So I'm going to wait and see what the reviews say about Assassin's Creed Mirage. But of those 3, that is the most likely one I'll get.
Gotcha.
What about you, Donnie?
I think I'm kind of in the same boat. I didn't play Detective Pikachu. I haven't even seen the movie, although I hear it's funny. Disgaea, not a fan. I don't really know the series intimately like you and Ryan do. RPGs are not the ones, or not the games that are like driving me to go and sit down and play them, which leaves me with Assassin's Creed. I'm not a big Assassin's Creed guy. I think I played one really in-depth when it first came out, and I wasn't that big into it because it was a lot of stealth, and I wasn't into stealth. I was like, grab my gun, let's go in, bang, 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 bang. And this didn't have it. So I gotta say, probably none of these games for me this week.
Ba, 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 da. All right, so why don't we go ahead and talk about our main topic for the week?
All right, from gamesindustry.biz, what Resident Evil Village on iOS tells us about the future of AAA mobile game development. When you play Resident Evil Village on an iPad Pro, it's flabbergasting to believe that this is Capcom's latest mainline entry running natively on a mobile device, looking every bit as good as its home console counterparts. It feels like alchemy when considering the most recent port of the game to a handheld device was the cloud version on Nintendo Switch. Factor in the rise of cloud-dedicated devices like Logitech G Cloud and Razer Edge, plus cloud gaming services like Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and GeForce Now, and the assumption would be that the only practical way to experience the most bleeding-edge titles portably is via streaming. But Apple's inclusion of its powerful M2 chip inside its latest devices, including the 6th-gen iPad Pro released last year, and most recently the iPhone 15 Pro, means that developers finally have the power of a high-end console in their hands. There are nonetheless some unique circumstances that make Resident Evil Village a smooth port to iOS, namely that Capcom had already ported the game to Mac OS last year, compatible with machines with the M2 chip. We have a relationship with Apple that existed previously to this latest hardware, iPhone 15 Pro, being released. Masachika Kawada, one of Resident Evil Village's producers, tells GamesIndustry.biz. But we just saw the new M2 chip as a great chance to bring Resident Evil to more players around the world, and we're always happy to have that kind of chance. We were very happy with how powerful the M2 was, as well as what it led us to achieve with this port.
It's clear then that it's taken the power of Apple's M2 chip to realize AAA game ports, hence why porting Village was not considered for devices without it, such as the also newly released iPhone 15 or any competitor on Android, although Kawada doesn't rule this out in the future. Kawada adds that it is arguably down to working with Capcom's internal RE engine, already lauded as one of the most versatile engines for the company's titles since its debut in 2017, Resident Evil 7. That has meant developing for the iOS with the M2 chip feels almost no different from developing for a current-gen console, although there are still minor considerations such as screen size. Things have come a long way since the original Resident Evil 4's infamous mobile versions more than a decade ago, and when there continues to be controversy over compromised Switch ports of big-budget titles like Mortal Kombat 1, to see Village on parity with its current gen versions is a sight to behold. While the iOS version of Village is being sold separately from the macOS version, the future port of Resident Evil 4 has been guaranteed universal purchase so that users need to only buy the game once to play on any Apple M2 powered hardware. But by the time Resident Evil 9, for example, comes along, could we see a likelihood that iOS just becomes one of the other current platforms that a new game releases simultaneously, as is the norm?
Of course, as has been the case with console and portable, it won't be a surprise if the next generation of PC and console hardware becomes vastly superior to what the M2 is capable of, and then the latter is back to chasing parity. Nonetheless, it's a future that producer Tsuyoshi Kanda seems optimistic about. I think it's definitely feasible in the future, especially considering how the annual upgrade cycle of mobile hardware for smartphones and tablets just continues to get better and better every year, he says. We could reach a point where, as part of the multi-platform strategy, we're just able to target these devices alongside existing current generation consoles. Kawada concludes our conversation with a more tempered response. At the moment, our process is still based on the idea of taking products we've released previously on other platforms, so we're not ready to commit to things like simultaneous release in terms of future titles, he explains. Since there's a lot of unknowns for us during this process, we brought them to Apple devices in question, and we want to try and get feedback on that and consider how to improve next time we do something like this. And we'd like to do better and better with each iteration.
You know, I gotta say, if they crack the code for making mobile devices able to run the same AAA games that you could get on a PC or on a PS5 or a Series X.
Don't say it.
Say it.
Don't say it.
I mean, what is that going to do to something like the Switch? Now, granted, the Switch's selling point has always been its price and its exclusive IP, like in Mario and stuff, Pokemon, whatever. But if you can take AAA games on the go on your iPhone.
And that's an interesting point. One of the pieces to this that kind of resonated with me was the cycle when it comes to new devices. There's a new iPhone practically every year. And as that's gone along, they obviously are increasing the capabilities of those phones and the functionality. With that being said, how long does your average console life last?
8 years?
Anywhere between, I was going to say anywhere between 6 to 10 years is what you're looking at. And so they'll come out periodically with upgraded versions of it, right? All of a sudden you got the whatever Pro, the PS4 Pro. But if you can upgrade at a cycle of every 2 years and be able to continuously be able to provide games that are up to date, that are releasing it at the same time as other platforms, that's going to make that a lot more attractive to people because it's also a multi-purpose device. Not only can I play the best games I want to play, but I can use it as my phone. I can do more things with this than just play games on it. That's not something that I'm 100% comfortable with myself yet, just because of my past experiences of playing mobile games, especially really awful ports of other games that have come on mobile. But let's be honest, if they could figure out how to make it, especially from a controller standpoint, a lot more functional, like they've done with the PlayStation Backbone, things like that, I wouldn't be that opposed to it. It's still the same game. So I don't know if this is necessarily what we're going to see in the next 2 to 3 or 4 years, but eventually I think that this will be what you can expect from gaming moving forward.
I think you're right. But then again, not everybody's able to afford some of these, the newer iPhones that come out, and hell, even some of the newer Android phones that come out. Those things are quite expensive when they range from anywhere between $700 to $1,200.
Right.
And when you talk about the cost factor, I think that's going to keep a lot of people from enjoying some of these ports to mobile on some of the better consoles, or should I say console, the better phones like Android or iPhone.
And you're not wrong in that sense, but one of the things I will say is that a vast majority of people have a phone. Not everybody has a PlayStation, Switch, or Xbox. So there are far more people that have some version of a phone that would be able to access this stuff on the go, because you're already purchasing it for something else. You're texting, calling, surfing the net, looking at porn, doing whatever.
But the fact that this runs natively, I mean, I think that's the real key here.
Exactly.
And the question is, in the face of being able to potentially make a ton of money by putting their AAA game on a phone, are most companies going to care about the fact that it like Resident Evil Village runs natively and therefore it's a really great experience? Or they're just going to say, oh, hey, here's a cloud version. We don't care. Just give us the money. And a couple weeks ago, like, it was coming out that the Resident Evil 4 remake for iPhone 15 Pro was going to cost $60. Like, that's the same as if you bought it on a console. And I laughed and laughed and laughed. I was like, who would do that? Right. But in the face of something like this, where it seems like, no, it runs natively. We ported it ourselves using our proprietary RE engine. I'm like, okay, I can make sense of that price point. But I guess my thought is that most of the other game companies will only see the sales and the price point, and they won't see how Capcom arrived at those two things by doing it properly. They'll just shortcut it and still charge the same amount.
And I think one of the biggest differences is that up until this point, it's either been extremely watered down versions of games, or they're all those apps that try to make it addictive for you to play, that you got to pay extra to do X, Y, or Z, right? They're that level of almost like gambling.
Right. Well, and I think that's an important distinction to make, is that I think there's a difference between what you generally consider a mobile game, which is what you just described, versus, no, this is an actual AAA game. We're just letting you play it on an iPhone.
And honestly, if they can also make it so it's something like the Switch, where if I choose to, I can throw it up on my TV, sign me up.
Which most phones have the capability to do.
Right. If you're using an Apple phone, you can just screen mirror it and throw it up there, and you're all set.
No, I don't want to screen share that tab.
So is that the future then? It's not going to be consoles. It's not going to be dongles.
Dongle.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Dongle. Sorry. I was muted. I said it. I was just muted.
I know we haven't talked about dongles in a while, but damn.
Dongle.
It's not going to be consoles. It's not going to be dongles. It's going to be phones cast onto your TV if you choose to.
I think that's one way to look at it. Yes. The traditional console, as we know it, I think is on its deathbed. It's not going to be a sense where we're going to have these big, expensive consoles any further. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the fact that, hey, we have AAA games that now run natively on an iPhone or an Android, or, you know what, a little bit more scaled back version on your flip phone, your Razer flip phone, if you want to do it that way.
You can cast Snake onto your TV.
Yeah. You don't necessarily need a dongle.
Dongle.
There you go. Thank you. You don't need one of these things to access online content, because the devices that we have, it's built into the damn thing. There are TVs with Roku that are integrated into the TV itself.
Right.
So all you have to do is grab a new TV, and guess what? It's got the capability to connect to the internet. It can connect up to whoever servers that have these games on their in their domains, and say, here you go. This is ready for you. You can access this stuff anywhere, and you're no longer going to be regulated to your own house to be able to access the content.
I mean, and it used to be back in the day, right? If anything was playing on a mobile device, you had to be concerned about connectivity because the bandwidth wasn't great. That's not a problem anymore.
Nope.
If you're connected to Wi-Fi, it's fantastic, and with 5G capabilities, it still runs like it should. So, at the end of the day, does it really matter? The only thing that you got to worry about is your unlimited plan really unlimited?
Right. How about them data charges?
Right.
Man, and I was looking forward to the dongles.
They're so cute, dongle. So I know we've on mobile gaming for the last 2 years of this podcast.
Because it has been.
Well, that's it. You're right. This is the difference. This is where I can get on board. I'm finally there.
You've got 2 AAA games that run natively.
Right.
I mean,
I'm saying,
don't jump on the bandwagon just yet.
It seems like it's a viable option for the future.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right, so before we move on, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This segment is proudly sponsored by A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. The show explores the history of video games through the series. I'm still going segment in my This segment is proudly sponsored by A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast. This show explores the history of video games through the stories and experiences of the people who lived it. Join host Bill Tucker along with a rotating cast of friends, family, podcasters, journalists, and anybody with a story as they go beyond the bits and bytes to share personal recollections of the last 30 years of gaming. This week's question is, what's your most memorable side quest in a video game? Let Bill know your answer by replying to his pinned tweet at A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter.
So nobody said favorite. They said memorable.
Yep.
So I'm going to go back to the cup noodle side quest in Final Fantasy 15, which forever will stick into my mind as being like, what the is happening? That I have to chase down ingredients for frickin' cup noodles in a Final Fantasy game that is littered with real world product placement, including shitty instant noodles. What the has this world come to?
Damn, that's a lot of expletives, Blue.
And Durant.
Yoshi's getting a workout today.
Yep.
Is that essentially when Final Fantasy jumped the shark then?
That's when it lost me. I'm going to be
Yeah.
honest. That's when Final Fantasy completely lost me.
For me, the most memorable one is a nostalgic one, which was chocobo breeding.
Bow,
Breeding.
chicka, bow wow. Chocobos.
It was just fun because you had to go explore and find all the different nuts and the greens and stuff. And then you had to race the chocobos to get them up to like the S tier. So there was a lot more involved with it. And I loved that. That was super fun. And then like the reward that you get for it is fantastic, of course, you know, with the materials that you get out of it and being able to explore more of the game as a result of it. It makes it so that the end boss is super easy to beat, but who cares? You're having fun. So I'll go with chocobo. Breeding.
Nice. Breeding. I can't think of a single solitary side quest that's... What? You don't know me.
This is how you answer every week.
I'm going to pick one for you. It's Grand Theft Auto 3.
Okay.
You sleep with a hooker, and then you shoot her to get your money back. There you go.
All right, there you go. That's my side quest.
Is that a side quest or is that a mechanic?
It's a great way to raise money.
Wait, you're not raising money. Don't you just end up with the same money you gave her? It's the same.
Yeah, but your health goes back up or something. I don't know.
Yeah. You started with something that you didn't have before. More health, your money back, whatever.
And herpes.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, welcome back, students. Please take your seats. Thank you for coming to Professor Ryebread's No, wait, we're not doing that this week. Oh, it's not going to be a Gaming History 101. It's going to be a Nostalgia 101 with your Professor Ryebread. So I wanted to kind of step back a little bit from gaming and talk about at least some experiences that I had as a kid watching game shows in the 90s. So there were a lot of game shows for kids back then. I'm sure several are coming to mind for you right now. But I will say that there are a certain few that just struck me as being ones that were a must watch. So decided to create a list, 5 of my favorite in order. This is my top 5 best games shows for the 1990s. So coming up, number 5, Wild and Crazy Kids. Do you guys remember Wild and Crazy Kids?
Not off the top of my head.
So this one's kind of an obscure one. But I distinctly remember Wild and Crazy Kids was one of those game shows I wanted to be on desperately, right? And it came out in the early 1990s. It didn't last very long, to my recollection. But I pulled up like a description of what it was. So I'm going to go through that, and then I'm going to talk about some of my memories. So Wild and Crazy Kids, of course, was a popular Nickelodeon game show hosted by a gentleman by the name of Omar Gooding back in the 90s. And the show was known for its quote-unquote wild and eccentric challenges that brought thrill to the childhood of life.
Wow.
I don't really know what that means, but we'll go with it.
Wild and eccentric challenges, unlike every other game show for kids.
Does this person write video game descriptions in their spare time too?
Apparently. So Wild and Crazy Kids, of course, featured teams of young contestants participating in a variety of physical challenges and messy games. These challenges ranged from obstacle courses and pie throwing contests to epic water balloon fights. The show's format encouraged friendly competition and camaraderie among the participants. Omar Gooding's lively hosting style added to the show's appeal. His charisma enthusiasm resonated with viewers as he cheered on teams, fostering a sense of excitement and fun. Wild and Crazy Kids became a cherished part of many childhoods, offering a delightful mix of entertainment and nostalgia. So there were actually 3 hosts. Omar, I believe, was like the number one, and then there were 2 others that were in kind of their late teens, early 20s. And the idea was that there were no prizes given out. So this wasn't like a game show where somebody's going to win a pair of hush puppies on their way home. But it was...
Sorry, you need to tell everybody what hush puppies are.
Hush puppies are a style of shoe that was available and that was always given away at these like 90s game shows, right? You know, so.
This is the first I've ever heard of hush puppies as a shoe.
Really?
I mean, they're a food as well, yes, but they were a brand of shoe as well.
Yep.
I gotta Google this.
So the idea was that there were 3 teams, right? Each had their own colored t-shirt that said Wild and Crazy Kids on it. I always wanted to be on that show because it looked so fun. And one that stuck out to me was this contest where 2 teams were playing against each other. And the idea was that they would pick out a soda can, put it on this little like holding device, and then they would take like a pen or a pencil and stab it, right? And certain of those soda cans were full of water and others were full of soda. Now, if you imagine if you stab a can of water, it's not, it's not carbonated, so nothing happens. You don't get sprayed with soda, right? But if you stab a soda can, expect to, get hit in the face with a lot of soda at high velocity. So I loved that part because it was this like, is it going to happen? There's no skill involved, but it's fun. And so that was one of those, just this game show in general was super fun to watch.
These are the most boring shoes I have ever seen in my life.
Blue's not interested in Wild and Crazy Kids. She wants to Google the Hush Puppies.
I just thought they must be super cool if they were giving away as prizes, but these are all like black and brown suede shoes.
That's what they were. You're right. And I think it was Hush Puppies and BK Nights were the 2 that they would give away.
Yes, BK Nights, I remember those specifically being giveawayed being as giveaways on 90s game shows. Giveawayed.
All right, so that takes us to number 4. I'm sure you guys know this one. Double Dare.
What?
Absolutely.
How is Double Dare number 4?
This is my list.
I object. Objection.
Double Dare is a fantastic game. I just think I have 3 that are better. That's all.
Not possible.
So according to the description, it is an iconic 90s game show hosted by Mark Summers. The show was renowned for its messiness and physical challenges that delighted viewers of all ages. Double Dare presented contestants with a series of messy and wacky physical challenges involving enormous props and, of course, copious amounts of green slime. The highlight of the show was the famous obstacle course, where contestants dashed through various obstacles to win prizes. It was the perfect blend of physical activity and humor. Mark Summers, with his witty commentary and infectious energy, became synonymous with the show. He guided contestants through the challenges, celebrated their successes, and even joined in on the mess. Double Dare was much about the fun of getting messy as it was about winning prizes, making it a hit among kids and families. I like Double Dare. It's a lot of fun. I like the trivia aspect to it. Of course, it was on Nickelodeon, so there had to be green slime, which was like the staple of that entire TV network for years. But the game itself wasn't that interesting to me. The questions were just like kind of generic, and if you didn't know it, you would dare, and then the other team would double dare, and you would have the choice to do a physical challenge or the whole point of it was the physical challenges. So if anybody got a question right, I was disappointed.
Then why did you try out for Double Dare?
I did try out for Double Dare because as a kid, I wanted to be on a frickin' game show. But we went to the Eastman Theater to try out. They were doing Double Dare live, and I did not get up on stage. So maybe that's why it's number 4. I'm a little buttered.
As long as you acknowledge that.
I remember the big nose that you could stick your hand up there and root around for a flag.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was peak 90s right there.
So number 3 is Nickelodeon Guts. Do you have it? Guts. Do either of you remember this game show?
I do remember Guts, yes.
I think I remember promos for it, but not really watching it.
So think like American Gladiators for kids is Nickelodeon Guts. So it's a game show that celebrated athleticism and determination. Hosted by Mike O'Malley, Guts provided a platform for young athletes to showcase their skills. Nickelodeon Guts featured contestants competing in a series of intense physical challenges, including rock climbing, slam dunk contests, and the daunting Aggro Crag. The Aggro Crag was a mountain-themed obstacle course that challenged contestants' speed and agility. Winning the crag was a coveted achievement. Mike O'Malley's role as host added to the show's appeal, his enthusiasm and encouragement for the contestants created a engaging atmosphere. Guts not only entertained, but also inspired viewers to pursue active and healthy lifestyles while emphasizing the value of sportsmanship and perseverance. So as a kid, I was a gym class warrior, so I was all in for Guts. Loved the show. I wanted to climb the aggro crag and lift a piece of the glowing rock, right? That was a game show that just resonated with me because, like I said, it's basically American Gladiators for kids. And so it was like, I could be on that. I could do that. Of course, I never did. But the idea was there. And it also included one of my first crushes of all time, which was Mo, the referee. She had a British accent. Was all in for that. She was cute.
You know, gym class warriors are the ones who ruin it for everyone, and then we can't play dodgeball anymore in gym class.
I'm aware. And that was me. Number 2. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Acapella.
Any game show that has a acapella group called Rockapella, I'm all in for. So this educational game show hosted by Greg Lee combined geography and problem solving in a captivating format. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego tasked contestants known as Acme agents with tracking down the elusive thief Carmen Sandiego by deciphering clues, answering trivia questions, and traveling to different countries. The show aimed to teach geography and world facts in an engaging manner. Greg Lee, as host, involved guiding the contestants on the adventures and providing context for the locations they visited. The show encouraged viewers to learn about various cultures and landmarks while solving intriguing mysteries. So, do either of you have any nostalgia for Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Not particularly. I watched the show. It was fun and entertaining, but like it wasn't something that I rushed home every day to watch.
Oh, I definitely did.
I'd rather go pick a giant nose than have to answer like real questions.
Wouldn't we
What
all?
a stereotypical American way of thinking.
What do you want from me?
I liked it because my dad was traveling when I was a kid, so I was really interested in world cultures and all these different things that were happening. So it kind of like resonated with me in that way. And honestly, I think a lot of my knowledge when it comes to geography happened from Carmen Sandiego. So
Oh, there you go.
I loved it. I and the whole like rockapella thing, and then like the boss lady who is, oh hey, how's it going, gumshoes? You know, that was so entertaining to watch. I love that show.
Nerd.
You and I are not the same. You get your geography from Carmen Sandiego. I got my geography from Animaniacs.
Oh,
You're not the same.
yes. Okay.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Chile, Jamaica, Peru.
Istanbul and Constantinople.
Istanbul, Constantinople.
No, that's Tiny Toons. Get it right.
I'm sorry. Which brings me to my number 1 90s game show as a kid. Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Temple.
So before I go into the description, do you guys have any nostalgia for Legends of the Hidden Temple?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh my God.
I didn't watch a lot of TV as a kid.
Fair enough. But Double Dare. God, don't talk about Double Dare.
Do not badmouth Double Dare in my presence.
That's the only TV she watched as a kid. No, Legends of the Hidden Temple. One of the things I specifically remember was the raft challenge on that thing.
Yep.
And then the talking idol, whatever it was.
Olmec.
Yeah. You even know his name. Okay,
yes, I do.
That's a nerd level like I've never even reached before.
Oh, I've got so many other I call it the Shrine of the Silver Monkey. That's why it's my number 1, man.
Yeah, of course. Legends of the Hidden Temple is up there along with Funhouse for me.
Yes, okay, Funhouse.
But not a Nickelodeon thing.
Right. So for those who are not familiar, Legends of the Hidden Temple, of course, was a 90s adventure game hosted by Kirk Fogg. The show combined history, mythology, and physical challenges. Legends of the Hidden Temple featured teams of contestants navigating through a fictional ancient temple while solving puzzles and completing physical tasks. The ultimate goal was to retrieve a coveted artifact, such as the helmet of Joan of Arc or the shrine of the Silver Monkey, which is incorrect because that was not one of the artifacts. Anyway, Kirk Fogg served as a knowledgeable host who guided contestants through the temple challenges. His presence added an educational aspect to the show, and he shared historical and mythical tidbits related to the temple's theme. Legend of the Hidden Temple encouraged viewers to engage with history and culture while enjoying an exciting adventure. So I loved it. I really wanted to have one of those t-shirts, right? So what was it? It was the blue barracudas, the red jaguars, the orange iguanas, the green monkeys, the silver parrots, and silver snakes and the purple parrots.
Damn.
Sounds like a bowl of Lucky Charms.
I think that's it. So that was just off the top of my head too. Look at me. And it was just cool because there was so many cool like challenges that the kids were doing. They were always super unique and they were always kind of teaching you something at the same time too. So it was like, oh, this is what happened during this culture time. So you've got to do this specific task because it's relevant to that. And then like the temple at the end was always super cool because there were these temple guards that would take you out and you needed a pendant of life in order for you to continue to go. Otherwise you got taken in and your friend or your fellow teammate had to go in and start all over again. Very like intense, like 3 minutes of television that you would watch. And then me screaming at the television going, "What are you doing? You're supposed to go to the left. Oh, Sean, idiot."
Sounds like a game of Warzone.
Pretty much, right? But I absolutely adored Legends of the Hidden Temple. I guess they came out with like an adult one recently that didn't last very long. And it wasn't even in the temple itself. So it sounded like it was super stupid. But I would love for them to remake this exactly the way it was. Maybe even for adults. I think it would be super fun.
I was just thinking that.
Yep.
There are so many 35 to 50, I'd say 35 to 50 aged people that would absolutely love to go on a game show like this whenever like we had when we were kids.
Right.
But I mean, you got to figure you're signing a waiver and you're probably going to have to end up using your own insurance if you get hurt.
How'd you tear your ACL? Well, thank you all for joining us for our first ever Nostalgia 101. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's lesson. And if you do have any suggestions for future Nostalgia 101s, feel free to email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com and we might feature your suggestion. So that'll about do it for us. So thank you for listening to episode 93 of Gamers Week Podcast. And a big thank you to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Love Retro BTW, and A Gamer Looks at 40 Podcasts for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out the links in the show notes. If you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. Watch us on Twitch at twitch.tv/GamersWeekPodcast. Visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com. Or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. And join us on Patreon at patreon.com/GamersWeek. Finally, since you made it all the way to the end of the episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback, and while you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice. And just as a reminder, no new episode next week. We will be at PRGE. But check out our Twitter account to find out when we will be streaming live on Twitch.
And if you're at PRGE next weekend, come say hi.
We'd love to talk to you about your car's extended warranty. I have a suggestion for a show, and it's basically you're trying to do speed runs or high score attempts, but a drill sergeant is behind you yelling in your ear.
What would you call such a show?
I don't know.
They'd call it Getting Drilled.
Hey, Mom, I got my afternoon snack. I'm going to go and watch an episode of Getting Drilled. The hell you are.
Well, on that note, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Great Scott!
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD-STDs things, right? Make it fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.